It was a night when even the stars seemed to hide behind the clouds, as if the sky itself didn't dare to look at what was about to unfold. The forest stood in absolute darkness, its ancient trees looming like silent giants, their twisted branches clawing at the air. A cold wind whispered through the leaves, carrying with it a mix of scents, wet soil, moss, and something else, something that spoke of danger. And somewhere in the middle of this vast, unforgiving wilderness, a small boy sat curled up at the base of a tree. His cheeks were streaked with tears, his clothes damp and torn from pushing through the undergrowth. He was no more than 6 years old. His tiny hands clutched a worn, stuffed rabbit, his only source of comfort in a world that suddenly felt terrifying and endless. Hours earlier, this boy had been holding his father's hand, laughing as they followed a narrow trail during a family picnic. But one careless moment, one too long glance at a butterfly fluttering between the ferns, and he had wandered too far. By the time he turned around, his parents were gone. The path was gone, the laughter was gone, now there was only the forest, and the sound of his own breathing. At first, he thought he heard footsteps. Not the kind of heavy, snapping sound humans make, but soft, deliberate, and growing closer. His small heart began to pound. The boy froze, holding his breath. From between the shadows of two trees, a shape emerged, tall, powerful, and silent. Two amber eyes caught what little light the moon offered, glowing with an intensity that made him tremble. It was a German shepherd. For a moment, fear gripped him. What was this dog doing here? Was it wild? Would it bite him? But then, the dog stopped just a few feet away and tilted its head, as if studying him. Its ears twitched, nose working the air. Then, without warning, the dog stepped forward, not with aggression, but with purpose. The boy didn't know it yet, but from this moment on, he would not be alone. The German shepherd circled him once, then sat down directly between him and the darkness of the forest. Its chest rose and fell in slow, steady breaths. Its eyes never left the shadows, scanning him as though expecting something to appear. Every few seconds, the dog's ears flicked toward the sound of rustling leaves or distant cries of nocturnal animals. The boy whispered, his voice trembling, Do you know where my mommy is? The dog didn't move, didn't blink. It was as if the question didn't matter right now. As if the only thing that mattered was keeping the boy safe until morning came. A strange comfort began to settle in the boy's chest. He didn't know why, but he believed this dog was here to protect him. What neither of them could see was that deep in the forest, something else had also noticed the boy. And it was moving closer. The forest seemed alive. Every creak of the trees, every whisper of the wind, every sudden rustle in the bushes made the boy clutch his stuffed rabbit tighter. He could barely see beyond the faint silver light of the moon filtering through the branches above. And yet, the dog didn't move. The German shepherd sat like a statue, muscles taut beneath its thick fur, its gaze fixed into the darkness ahead. From time to time, its ears swiveled toward a sound, an owl's call, the scurrying of a small animal, but its eyes always came back to scanning the shadows. The boy's stomach growled. He hadn't eaten since the picnic earlier that day. His throat was dry, his lips chapped. A soft whimper escaped him. The dog turned its head slightly, meeting the boy's eyes. In that moment, there was something in the animal's gaze, a silent promise. Without making a sound, the dog stood and trotted a few feet away into the undergrowth. The boy panicked. Wait, don't leave me, he cried out in a shaky voice. But the shepherd was back in seconds, carrying something in its mouth, a large leaf cup like a bowl, holding rainwater. The boy blinked, too surprised to speak. The dog set it down in front of him, nudging it gently with its nose. The boy took the leaf with trembling hands and drank. The water was cold and fresh, and for the first time since he got lost, he felt a flicker of relief. Then, from deep within the forest, came a sound that froze them both. It wasn't the sound of wind, or birds, or even a wild deer. It was a low, guttural growl. The shepherd instantly moved in front of the boy, its body lowering, ears pinned back, teeth barely visible under the curl of its lip. The boy felt his heartbeat slam in his chest. He could see the muscles in the dog's shoulders ripple as it stood its ground. Something was moving between the trees. The growl came again, closer this time. Two faint glimmers of eyes appeared in the darkness, and a long shadow slinked forward. The boy didn't know what it was. But the shepherd did, and it was ready. With a sharp bark that cut through the night, the dog lunged forward, sending the creature retreating into the shadows. The sound of snapping twigs and frantic footsteps faded into the distance. The shepherd stayed alert for a few moments longer, scanning the darkness, before finally returning to the boy's side. The boy wrapped his arms around the dog's neck, burying his face into its fur. "Please don't leave me," he whispered. The shepherd didn't move away. It sat down again, leaning slightly toward him, guarding, watching, waiting. Far away, in the direction the boy had come from, faint voices called his name. But in the depth of the forest, the sound was swallowed by the night. Rescue was still far away, and the forest was not done testing him yet. The hours crawled by like shadows stretching endlessly across the forest floor. The moon had shifted, casting different angles of silver light through the branches, but the darkness still ruled every corner. The boy had stopped crying, but his eyes stayed wide, alert to every noise. The German shepherd hadn't rested. Every muscle in its body remained coiled, ready to react at the smallest sign of danger. The boy began to notice the rhythm of the dog's breathing, steady, controlled, like it knew panic would only make them weaker. In the distance, a wolf howled. The boy flinched, his small fingers digging into the fur around the dog's neck. The shepherd didn't flinch. Instead, it slowly rose to its feet, staring in the direction of the sound. Its tail was straight, ears forward, posture strong. A silent signal to whatever was out there: "You will not pass." The night air was colder now. The boy shivered. Without hesitation, the shepherd lay down beside him, pressing its warm body against the child to share heat. The boy nestled closer, feeling safer under the dog's watch than he had all day. But comfort never lasted long in the forest. A sudden snap of a branch echoed nearby. The shepherd's head shot up. Its body stiffened, and it let out a low, warning growl. The boy looked toward the sound, his breath catching in his throat. Between the trees, a figure was moving, slow, deliberate, too large to be a fox or raccoon. The shepherd stepped forward, placing itself between the boy and the intruder. Its hackles rose, fur bristling, and a deep, rumbling bark tore through the silence. The figure stopped. For a long, tense moment, there was nothing but the sound of leaves rustling in the wind. Then, the shape turned and melted back into the darkness. The shepherd didn't relax immediately. It stood there for minutes, nose lifted, sniffing the air as though memorizing the scent of whatever had been watching them. Only when it was certain the threat was gone did it return to the boy's side. The child whispered, "You're my hero." He didn't know if the dog understood the words, but the shepherd's tail moved just slightly, a small flick that could have been an answer. But danger wasn't the only challenge they faced. Hunger was gnawing at the boy's stomach again. The shepherd seemed to notice. It disappeared into the forest once more, the boy's heart leaping with fear that it might not return. Minutes passed. Then, there was movement. The dog reappeared, carrying something in its mouth, half a loaf of bread, slightly dirty but still edible. Somewhere nearby, perhaps a campsite had been abandoned, or a hiker had left food behind. The boy didn't care. He tore into the bread, grateful beyond words. With his hunger eased and warmth at his side, the boy's eyes grew heavy. The shepherd didn't sleep. It stayed awake, scanning the trees, every sense sharpened. But as dawn approached, the forest began to stir again, birds calling, leaves rustling. And with it, came a sound the boy hadn't dared to hope for. Voices, faint at first, then louder, calling his name. The boy's eyes lit up. He tried to stand, but the shepherd stayed by his side, watching. The voices drew closer, but so did something else, the crunch of heavy footsteps that didn't sound like the rescue party. The shepherd knew they weren't alone. The boy's heart pounded with hope and fear all at once. The voices calling his name felt like a lifeline, but the other sound, the slow, deliberate crunch of footsteps, was getting closer from the opposite direction. The German shepherd moved in front of him again, body low, ears back, and eyes locked toward the noise. The boy clung to the dog's fur, whispering, "Don't go, please don't go." But the shepherd had already made up its mind. It wasn't going to let anything reach the boy without going through it first. From behind the trees, a man emerged. He was tall, unshaven, with clothes torn and muddy, his eyes darting around like a predator sizing up its prey. His expression wasn't one of relief at finding a lost child. It was something else entirely. Something that made the boy's stomach twist. "Well, what do we have here?" the man muttered, stepping closer. The shepherd's lips curled back, teeth bared in a warning snarl that echoed through the forest. The man stopped, raising his hand slightly. "Easy now, I'm not here to hurt anyone," he said, but his tone was oily, unconvincing. The boy took a small step back, but his foot landed on a twig, snapping it loudly. The man's eyes darted to the movement, and he took another step forward. That was all the shepherd needed to see. With a burst of speed, it lunged, barking so fiercely that the sound made the forest feel smaller. The man froze, clearly realizing that one wrong move would have the dog at his throat. From somewhere in the distance, the voices calling the boy's name were getting closer, louder, sharper. The man glanced over his shoulder toward the sound, then back at the dog, calculating his options. Finally, with a hiss of frustration, he backed away into the trees, disappearing as quickly as he'd appeared. The shepherd didn't chase him. It stayed rooted in place, watching, waiting, making sure the threat was gone. Only when the man's footsteps had faded completely did the dog turn back to the boy. Tears welled in the boy's eyes. You saved me," he whispered. Moments later, a shout cut through the air, loud, desperate, and full of relief. "Eli," the boy gasped. "That's my dad." He started to run, but then stopped, turning back toward the shepherd. "Come on, you have to meet them." But the dog didn't move. It simply stood there, watching him with those warm amber eyes. The boy frowned, confused. He took a step toward it. "Why aren't you coming?" The shepherd's ears twitched at the sound of approaching footsteps, this time, many of them. The boy's parents broke through the trees, faces pale and eyes wide with disbelief. His mother dropped to her knees, pulling him into her arms, sobbing into his hair. His father knelt beside them, his voice breaking as he whispered, "We thought we lost you." Through the blur of tears, the boy looked back toward where the dog had been. But the spot was empty. "Wait, where's the dog?" he cried, struggling to pull free from his mother's arms. "What dog?" his father asked, scanning the forest. "The German shepherd. He stayed with me all night. He saved me." His parents exchanged a puzzled glance. They hadn't seen any dog. The boy twisted in every direction, searching desperately through the trees. But there was no flash of tan fur, no gleam of amber eyes. The forest was quiet again, too quiet. They led him back toward the trail where rescuers were waiting. As they walked, the boy kept looking over his shoulder, hoping for one last glimpse. Just before they stepped out of the forest, he thought, maybe, he saw a shadow moving between the trees. A tall, strong silhouette that paused, watching him one last time. The boy smiled through his tears. "Goodbye," he whispered. The shepherd didn't follow. It melted into the forest as silently as it had appeared, leaving only the memory of warmth, protection, and courage behind. Years later, the boy, now a man, would tell the story of the night a stranger might have taken him, or worse, if not for the watchful eyes of a German shepherd. Some people believed it was a lost search and rescue dog. Others swore it was the spirit of a loyal companion from some other lifetime. The man didn't care which it was. All he knew was that somewhere, deep in the heart of that forest, there lived a guardian who appeared when you needed him most. And sometimes, on quiet nights, when the wind moved just right, he could still swear he heard the faint, distant bark of a dog, watching over him still.